I'm writing this down because I need someone else to know what happened, even if they think I'm crazy. This was New Year's Eve 2023, and I was alone in my apartment in Portland. My girlfriend had broken up with me 2 weeks before Christmas, so I wasn't exactly in a celebrating mood. I grabbed a six-pack, ordered pizza, and planned to watch some movies until I passed out. Around 11:30, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Silence. Complete silence on the other end. I said hello twice, then hung up. 2 minutes later, it rang again. Same number. This time I heard breathing, slow, deliberate breaths like someone was right next to the phone. I hung up immediately and blocked the number. At 11:45, my landline rang. I haven't given that number to anyone in years. I let it ring. It stopped after 10 rings, then started again immediately. I picked up and shouted, asking who it was. A voice, male, distorted like it was being run through some kind of filter, whispered, "Look outside. My apartment is on the 4th floor." I went to the window and looked down at the parking lot. There was a man standing directly under my window, looking up. He was wearing all black, and even from 4 floors up, I could see he was holding a phone to his ear. The streetlight caught his face. He was smiling, this wide, unnatural smile. I backed away from the window and called 911. While I was on the phone with the dispatcher, I heard tapping on my window. Not knocking, tapping like fingernails on glass. I spun around. He was there, on my 4th floor window, pressed against the glass, that same smile, tapping with one finger while holding his phone with the other. I screamed at the dispatcher. She told me officers were 3 minutes away. The tapping got faster, more frantic. Then he started mouthing words at me through the glass. "Happy New Year," over and over. His eyes never blinked. From my TV, I heard the countdown start. 10, 9, 8. The tapping matched the countdown. 7, 6, 5. He pressed his whole hand against the glass. 4, 3, 2. The glass cracked. 1. Every light in my apartment went out. I heard the crowd on TV cheering Happy New Year, but everything was pitch black. I fumbled for my phone's flashlight. When I turned it on and pointed it at the window, he was gone. The glass was cracked in the perfect shape of a handprint, but he had vanished. Police arrived 4 minutes later. They searched the building, checked the fire escape, looked at security footage. Nothing. No one climbed up. No one climbed down. The security camera covering my side of the building had mysteriously stopped recording at 11:50 and started again at 12:03. The landlord made me pay for the window. He didn't believe my story, but I know what I saw. I moved out 3 weeks later, and every New Year's Eve since then, at exactly midnight, I get a call from an unknown number. I never answer, but I can hear it ringing, and ringing, and ringing. This happened last year, so it's still pretty fresh in my mind. I'm Marcus, and I was living in Austin at the time. My buddy Jake invited me to this New Year's Eve party at his friend's house in the suburbs. I didn't know the host, but Jake said it would be a good time and I needed to get out more. I drove out there around 10 p.m. The house was huge, one of those modern places with lots of glass and weird angles. Cars lined the street, music was pumping, people were everywhere. I texted Jake that I'd arrived. He said he was running late but would be there by 11. I went inside and grabbed a drink. The place was packed, maybe 60 or 70 people. I didn't recognize anyone, but that was normal for these kinds of parties. I made small talk with a few people near the kitchen, then wandered around looking for a quieter spot. That's when I started noticing things were off. The conversations around me didn't make sense. I'd hear someone laughing, but when I looked, their face was completely blank. People would walk past me, and I'd smell this chemical odor like formaldehyde or something medicinal. The music seemed to skip and repeat the same 5 seconds over and over, but no one else seemed to notice. I checked my phone. 11:23. Still no word from Jake. I texted him again. "Dude, where are you? This party is weird." He responded immediately. "What party? I'm at Dave's place on Riverside. Where are you?" My stomach dropped. I asked him for the address he'd sent me. He sent it again. It was different from where I was. Completely different neighborhood. I looked at our original text thread. The address had changed. I know it sounds crazy, but the numbers were different than what I'd driven to. I decided to leave immediately. I pushed through the crowd toward the front door. That's when everyone stopped moving. All at once, the music cut out. 60 people frozen in place, all turning their heads to look at me, in perfect unison. A woman near the door, I talked to her earlier about her dog, smiled at me. "You can't leave yet. It's almost midnight." Her voice was wrong, layered, like multiple people speaking at slightly different times. I ran, just bolted for the door. Hands grabbed at me, dozens of hands, all cold and stiff. I yanked the door open and stumbled outside. I sprinted to my car, fumbled with my keys, and got in. When I looked back at the house, every single person was standing in the windows, watching me. Not moving, just watching. I drove straight to Jake's actual party. When I got there, I was shaking so badly I could barely hold my drink. Jake thought I was messing with him when I tried to explain. I pulled up the address on my phone to show him. It was gone. The entire text thread from earlier that day had vanished. The only message was his latest one with Dave's address. I drove back the next day. Had to know if that house was real. I found the street, found the number. There was a house there, but it was abandoned. Windows boarded up, yard completely overgrown. A condemned notice on the door. The realtor sign out front said it had been empty for 3 years. I still don't know what happened that night, where I actually was, who those people were. But I know one thing. I'm never going to a New Year's Eve party at an address I don't personally verify again. This story is about my dad, and it's the reason our family doesn't celebrate New Year's Eve anymore. I'm telling it exactly as he told me. Back in 1998, my dad and his college buddy Rick decided to spend New Year's Eve at Rick's family cabin in northern Minnesota. It was a last-minute thing. Their girlfriends had gone to a wedding, and they wanted to do some ice fishing and drinking away from the city. The cabin sat on the edge of Lake Vermilion. It had been well below freezing for months, so the ice was solid, probably 2 feet thick. They got there around noon on the 31st, unpacked, and spent the afternoon drilling holes and fishing. Caught nothing, but they weren't really there for the fish. By evening, they were inside with the fire going, playing cards and working through a bottle of whiskey. Around 11:30, they heard it. A scraping sound outside, like something being dragged across ice. My dad said it was rhythmic, persistent. Scrape, pause, scrape, pause. Rick grabbed a flashlight and they went out onto the back deck. The lake was dark except for the moon reflecting off the snow. The scraping had stopped. They stood there for maybe 30 seconds. Then Rick pointed. About 50 yards out on the ice, there was a dark shape. At first, my dad thought it was a fallen tree branch or some debris. But then it moved. It stood up. Person. Standing in the middle of the frozen lake at nearly midnight on New Year's Eve in sub-zero temperatures. My dad called out asking if they needed help. No response. The figure just stood there, facing them. Rick said they should go check. Make sure whoever it was wasn't hurt or drunk or something. My dad didn't want to. Said something felt wrong. But Rick was already pulling on his boots. They grabbed flashlights and walked out onto the ice. As they got closer, the figure started backing away, maintaining the same distance. They'd walk 10 feet, the figure would move back 10 feet. My dad's flashlight finally caught the person's face. It was a young boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, wearing old-fashioned clothes like something from the 1950s. His lips were blue, his skin was pale, but his eyes were wide open and locked on them. Rick called out, asking if the kid was lost. The boy's mouth opened, and he whispered something they couldn't hear. Then he turned and started running across the ice, away from shore, toward the center of the lake. Without thinking, Rick chased after him. My dad yelled for him to stop, but Rick kept going, shouting that they couldn't let a kid freeze to death out there. My dad followed, cursing the whole time. They ran maybe 200 yards. Then the boy stopped at a specific spot and looked down at the ice. When they caught up, breathing hard, the boy looked up at them and smiled. Then he stomped his foot down. Once, twice, 3 times. The ice cracked. Not around him, around my dad and Rick. Massive cracks spreading out in every direction. The sound like thunder. They ran back toward shore, the ice groaning and splitting beneath them. My dad said he could hear water sloshing under his feet, could feel the ice dipping with each step. They made it to within 20 feet of shore when Rick fell through. My dad grabbed his arm, but Rick was soaked and heavy and the edge of the hole kept breaking off. My dad screamed for help, tried to pull, but Rick's hand was slipping. That's when my dad looked up and saw the boy. He was standing on solid ice 10 feet away, completely dry, still smiling. My dad made a split-second decision. He let go of Rick's hand and lunged for shore. He barely made it, crawling the last few feet on his stomach. When he turned around, Rick was gone. The hole had closed up, solid ice like it had never broken. My dad called 911. They sent divers at first light. They found Rick under 8 feet of ice, 30 feet from shore. The medical examiner said he drowned, but his body showed signs of hypothermia that should have taken hours to develop, not minutes. The ice was tested. It was 18 inches thick where he fell through. It shouldn't have broken at all. My dad spent 3 days talking to police, explaining what happened. They ruled it an accident, said the ice must have had a weak spot. But my dad knew what he saw. He saw that boy. He saw the ice close up. He went back to the cabin once more a week later to get their stuff. In the guest book, he found an entry from 1952. It was about a young boy who had fallen through the ice on New Year's Eve and drowned. His body was never recovered. The entry described exactly what he was wearing. My dad sold the cabin. Hasn't been ice fishing since. And every New Year's Eve, right at midnight, he goes to his room and doesn't come out until morning. He won't talk about it anymore. But I've seen him staring out the window on those nights, watching, like he's waiting for something to appear in the dark.